Start your engines. Let's go.
It's that time of year again. It's been 5 months since Nintendo released the very first pack of DLC for Mario Kart 8, and now it's time for not only the second batch of DLC, but also a free update containing 200cc, a brand new racing mode that features Mach speed racing. Firstly, I think it's worth pointing out that since the Canadian dollar has taken a fall in recent months, the DLC is now $10 for Canadians, as opposed to the original $8 price tag that Americans will still have. If you purchased the combo pack back in November, you'll already have access to DLC pack number 2 with no additional charge. But if you're like me and you bought it individually, you're now faced with a decision on whether or not to buy DLC pack 2. The first DLC pack was pretty darn good and well worth it, so let's see if the second pack holds the same. DLC Pack 2 unlocks 4 characters this time around, as opposed to DLC Pack 1's mere 3 characters. You'll unlock Animal Crossing's very own villager, both male and female, along with the wonderfully adorable Isabelle featured in Animal Crossing New Leaf. I wasn't really a fan of Link being in the game since I just felt he really didn't belong there. However, the Animal Crossing characters all fit in really well, as they match the cutesy art style that Mario's been known for. Returning from Mario Kart Wii is Dry Bowser, the 4th and final character included in the DLC pack. New vehicles are also included, taking the shape of the Streetle, a kart fashioned after Animal Crossing's very own Horn Dynasted Beetle, and the City Tripper, a stylish little moped. Also included are the P-Wing, a very stylish racing car, and the Bone Rattler, Dry Bowser's very own motorcycle. It's pretty badass. DLC Pack 2 also includes 8 brand new tracks in the form of the Crossing Cup and the Belle Cup. 4 tracks are remastered and reimagined tracks from past games, while 4 are completely brand new ones. This is a little bit odd since DLC Pack 1 only had 3 remakes and 5 brand new stages, though this time 2 of them are from the Game Boy Advance Mario Kart, so there's a lot more room for expansion and recreation. The first track is Mario Kart Double Dash's Baby Park, an extremely simple track, but a hectic one. The track's been modified slightly, with small subtle curves being molded into the sides of the track. You'll be racing the entire thing with the anti-gravity tires. One thing I really liked about this version of the track is that every time you finish a lap, the music gets faster and faster and faster. It really helps build and retain the frantic energy that this track is already well known for. Next is Cheese Land from Mario Kart Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance. Has anybody played this one? It's the only Mario Kart I actually really haven't played much of. This one's okay. It's pretty straightforward and there's not really a lot to it. There's a lot of frequent bends and turns that make navigating the stage pretty challenging. Next up is the very first original stage in this pack, Wild Woods. The second the track starts, you'll notice that, you're not on the ground. Seeing those toads standing there on a whole separate plane of reality almost gave me goosebumps the first time I saw it. It's definitely a great way to reiterate the game's anti-gravity mechanics. This stage is also pretty straightforward, though it's a lot more fun than Cheeseland. You'll zip through boardwalks and down streams, hopping across lily pads to the finish line. This track is really atmospheric and it has a lot of really pretty effects, like these particles moving through the air right here. Finally, we have Animal Crossing, which is easily the best track in the cup. Every time you race here, it'll be a different season. It'll cycle through summer, fall, winter, and spring with a different variation of the track's theme being played each and every time. It's a little bit more than just a visual difference, as certain seasons will offer obstacles that other seasons didn't. For example, in winter you'll have snowmen that you can run into, and in fall there's piles of leaves that will sometimes hide items. Back when I reviewed DLC Pack 1, I kinda criticized the Zelda level for failing to create fun mechanics using the aesthetics of Zelda, and instead having everything just be visually different with palette swaps. Animal Crossing definitely does a much better job here, as several iconic things from Animal Crossing play a role in not just the visual design, but also the game design. In addition to the seasonal exclusive obstacles that I've mentioned before, there's also trees that'll bear fruit that you can collect to get a speed boost. Also, just like Animal Crossing, balloons will also carry items that the player can pop to collect. Occasionally you'll see Rossetti pop out of the ground, and Jesus, look how big they made them. Oh yeah, and there's also bells instead of coins. That's kind of cool, I guess, but replacing coins and palette swapping everything was all that the Zelda stage managed to do. But Animal Crossing goes so far beyond that, and in that regard, I think it's a much better stage than the Zelda track was. Overall, the Crossing Cup is pretty great. The only track I thought was just okay was Cheese Land. The other 3 tracks I had a blast with. The stages are even more fun in 200cc, though I'd highly recommend running through and familiarizing yourself with them on 150cc first, as 200cc is really hard. I find myself flying off the track so often if I'm not totally familiar with the stage. Alright, let's move on to the Belle Cup. This one starts off with a remake of the 3DS track, Neo Bowser City. Like Cheeseland, this one's okay. It's really straightforward and has a lot of twists and turns. It's way more fun on 200cc though. With all the extra speed, you can pretty much drift through nearly the entire level. It's still really hard though, and it will require a lot of practice. Next up is the Game Boy Advance's very own Ribbon Road. It takes shape in the form of a children's bedroom with toys littering the ground and a racetrack surrounding the mess. This one's really good. It's very bumpy, making it challenging to retain a steady pace. Mecha Koopas will cross the road every now and then, almost like a moose walking across the highway. You don't want to smash into them. Next up is one of my favorite stages in the entire DLC pack, Super Belle Subway. It's almost like Toad's Turnpike, but with oncoming subway trains instead of cars. You'll start up on ground level before racing down the stairs into the subway tunnels. There's a lot of pathways and jumps down here, and with some good timing, you can land on the subway trains and race on top of them. Lastly, we have the grand finale, F-Zero's second stage, Big Blue. Similar to Mute City, you're able to use the boost lanes to fill your coin count. Though Big Blue completely lacks the coins themselves, so you'll have to rely purely on the boost lanes to charge up. There's no laps on the stage either, as it's a single trip down a very tall mountain of twisting and turning tracks. Oh, and did I mention how sick the remix is? Mario Kart 8 already had me thinking that you can probably put saxophone in pretty much anything, but now I'm convinced. There's a lot more variety in track types to this one than there was in Mute City. For instance, conveyor belts that'll be moving in both directions, making you dodge some while trying to stay on others. This becomes even more challenging further down the track, as you'll enter a tube filled with them twisting around to meet with the track's exit. For what it's worth, I think the second batch of DLC is even better than the first. The new characters are much more varied and way more fitting this time, and the new tracks are a lot more consistently great. Though 2 of the tracks are kinda whatever. All in all, they did a much better job integrating the Animal Crossing series than they did the Zelda series. The second DLC pack for Mario Kart 8 gets a Mario Kart Great. I already made that joke.